Hello and welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be covering a whole bunch of Warlords of Draenor news. Now usually I'd put this in a Warcraft Daily style format, but honestly I don't have any of the assets ready for Warcraft Daily. So yeah, this is just going to be off the cuff Warlords news. Now we've got a whole bunch of topics. First of all, we've got the Blood Elves and the Trolls, then we've got facial customization, then we've got a big thread which triggered a whole bunch of blue responses about just some people being worried about Warlords. There's a whole bunch of misconceptions in the thread, some things that maybe do hit a solid enough point, so we'll go through that and talk it out. Then there's also a new quest marker system that they're putting into the beta. It's not in yet, but I think it's definitely worth talking about because it's really cool. And then finally, there's a Valor buff this weekend, woohoo, and all that stuff. Alright, first of all, Blood Elves and Trolls. So a lot of people have been saying to me, hey, dude, where's the Blood Elves, where's the Trolls? I want to see them, I'm not happy. Well, you're going to be in luck if you're a troll, and you're not going to be in luck if you're a Blood Elf. So the good news first, if you're a troll, then there should be an Artcraft, maybe next week, maybe the week after that, that's going to show off the new troll model. Now as for the Blood Elves, well, as it turned out, they're just not happy enough with their current version of the new Blood Elf, and they've decided that they're going to have to basically push it post-launch. So, right, a lot of people are going to expect me to be very angry about this or something, but I think the people who do expect that kind of don't get why I sometimes get a little bit unhappy about things. I'm actually okay with this. It's not like they're cutting out a bit of playable content that's actually got gameplay in it. It's not like they're cutting out the green fire quest because they couldn't get the green fire effect to look cool. Ultimately, it really is important that these new character models look fantastic and that they, just fit the race really well. And really, if, let's just say Warcraft goes on for another 6 or 7 years, this is probably going to be the model that lasts that 6 or 7 years. Now, do you really think it's worth rushing it out for the sake of a few months? Do you really think it's worth it? Honestly, I think the best thing to do is to ultimately have the better model, even if it is delayed by a patch or two. I know it's not great news for everyone, but I think it's probably the right thing to do in this case. Honestly, these character models have been basically just like a giant sort of leech in the art team's resources, which I think is, it's been a bit of a pain in the arse for them, really. They've had to make some of the most amazing looking zones that we've seen in the game, some of the most amazing looking dungeons, they've had to make all the garrison buildings, and then they've had all of these new character models. This has been an extremely art-heavy expansion. I would hope that perhaps in the future they would maybe recognize that that was too much to put on the art team for one expansion, because I'd say maybe some of the delays could be a little bit art related. I'm not really saying that's a terribly bad thing, but perhaps, the art team were just given too much work. I think that they have actually done a fantastic job. As I've said, the dungeons, zones, the models that we do have at the minute, they all look amazing. I'm really happy with how things look. So, yeah, there you go, basically. A little bit of bad news for the Blood Elves and the Trolls, but we do have some very good news. Faces. A lot of people have been saying, hey, the faces just don't look that good. Or the differences, or the differentiation between the various faces is not enough. Well, the good news is that they are taking a bit of a pass at that. I'll show you a few different screenshots here. Not really too many screenshots, unfortunately, but whatever. So, essentially, what they said in this big post is that the way that the original faces look so different is because instead of Blizzard kind of painting on, having, different, manipulating the bone structures and doing all those things, they basically just painted something on. So if they wanted you to have a certain, look in your face, they would just paint that texture on to the model. Whereas nowadays, with things being a lot higher quality, they have to make a new mesh, they've got to make new textures and lots of things. But the good news is they're finally doing that. And this should mean that you're going to get facial models and things like that that are a little bit more similar to the older ones in terms of the kind of unique feel of each variation. I think that's really important. They showed a bunch of screenshots, and honestly, I think that does appear to be pulling off what they're going for quite well. And yeah, it's just nice that they are taking the time to go back at this concern, because it was a valid concern, it was something a lot of people were worried about, and hey, yeah, it's good that Blizzard have decided to meet that one head on and do an Artcraft post about it. I'm glad that this isn't just something they've relegated to Twitter, honestly. And little bit of a aside here, but for an example, that news about the Blood Elves and all that was communicated via Twitter. It's nice when they do a big Warcraft post that just puts their cards on the table and lets them just say what they want to say in as many characters as they want. When you're limited to a whole bunch of 140 character tweets, then your control over the information that's given out and the public perception of that information just isn't as good. And when it comes down to PR, a lot of it is managing expectations and managing what the public thinks, as much as some of that might seem a little bit sinister. Anyway, so with that talked about, let's talk about the big thread. So, a thread appeared on the official World of Warcraft forums called, let's see, what was it called? Yes, not looking forward to WoD anymore. Now, it had a whole bunch of little points that the OP was a little bit annoyed about. Now, unfortunately, some of them perhaps had a few misconceptions in them, and I think I'm just going to go through a list of things just to talk about what's here, because maybe it'll clear up some misconceptions and things like that you guys have. There's also a very good and relevant word of wisdom from Bashiok. He basically just said that, listen, in a post like this, a lot of people will take the OP's points or something like that, and they'll just assume that they're all fact, they'll assume they're all true. No, what you have to do is, before you make a comment, research before you make it. I wish people would do this in YouTube comments, because, frankly, it's like I feel like banning 10 people, not because they've offended me, but because they've just been so stupid that it's been frustrating to read. So yeah, look, if you just, like, sort of find someone else's opinion and then follow it without actually questioning it or researching it, then you're just being a bit of a sheep. No one wants to be a sheep, because what happens to sheeps? Well, they, you know, you chop their wool off, you make a jumper with it, and then you chop their head off and you eat them. That's not what you want to be. You don't want to be a sheep, you want to think for yourself. It's important that you think for yourself, and I think really in forum environments, there is a bit of a problem where people will just see the OP's points and think, oh wow, look at this, the OP has came here bringing down wisdom. No, you need to question things. Anyway, so let's talk about the OP's points, and then I'll go through some things that Laura said. Okay, so the first thing that this guy said is the Black Temple, aka Karabor, and Bladespire Fortress are no longer hub cities, they're just quest locations that you visit once. Well, that is true. I think you'll probably visit them more than once, but I'm certainly concerned about this. Laura said that they won't be hub cities, but they will be more than just quest locations. I remain to be convinced, frankly, on that point. Then he also said that the new faction cities are copy-pastas from the 4.1 Kasserang Wild stuff. A, that's just not true. And B, they're still in beta and they're being worked on quite a lot. And, well, basically that's exactly what Laura said as well. Also, this person said that garrisons are only in one zone now. They are no longer customizable. You can't name your NPCs, there's no longer skill boosts, and it's just a daily quest hub that's basically, you know, phased to you. So, it's true, it is only in one zone, and it's true that you can't name your NPCs. It's not true that there's no longer customization, but I'm extremely worried about the depth of that customization, and this whole thing about there no longer being skill boosts, I'm not 100% sure what he means. Lore said that's false, but I'll just leave that up to him. And then the assertion of it just being a daily quest hub is a bizarre assertion. I think that it's actually true enough, but the problem is that saying daily quest hub's got a lot of negative connotations. The garrison is a place that you will go to on a daily basis to do some missions and get some daily quests, so in that sense it is a daily quest hub, but I think that it is more than just a hub, and it should, even in the current version, which I do have my misgivings about, it should be quite good. The OP also said that the average class is going from 40 spells to 7 spells. That's not true. Lore also said that's not true, but that ain't true. It's not from 40 to 7. They've maybe taken out 20% of your spells. I think some classes have not came out too well from the prune, and there's still a lot of work to be done, but that's just crap, what the OP said. Then they also said that there are no new skeletons or animations, and that literally every creature is a remodel. No, that's not true. There are lots of new models and things like that. I've seen them, and of course the new character models and things like that have got redone skeletons and animations. There's a lot more work going into this stuff, and yeah, that's not the case. The OP also said that portions of entire zones are copy-pasted from the BC stuff. That's not true, actually. Now, I think there are one or two times when we've seen maybe a part of Hellfire Citadel be there. Essentially, I think what they've probably done in some cases is taken a chunk of a zone, and in order to line up, like, major parts of the landscape or major sort of landmarks, they've maybe just used that as a point of reference. But I can definitely say that Lore is correct when he says that everything has been built from scratch. That is the case. We're just looking at this stuff, it's built from scratch, guys. That's just how it is. Then the OP also said that because there's no flying, there are lots of 2D JPEG mountains and that shamans have had farsight removed and hunters have had eagle vision removed. That is not true. Every zone can be flown in. That's what lore said, and honestly, that's what I've seen in the beta. Now, of course, I haven't flown in the beta, but a lot of people have because of server issues. And they've been able to go over all the various zones and notice that there are no 2D JPEG mountains. That's a load of crap. I just hate it when OPs like this, they lie and then a big thread gets a lot of traction. And one of the reasons why I'm covering this thread is because I've seen a lot of the misconceptions that he has said inside the comments of my videos and things like that, so it's just worth talking about. So that's covered. Right, also, the OP said that there are only 4 dungeons from level 90 to 100. Well, there's only 4 dungeons from level 90 to 99 and then 4 more at level 100, giving a total of 8 max level dungeons. That's not enough. That's not enough. There needs to be about 14. MoP didn't have enough, and Warlords of Draenor does not have enough. Blizzard, you need to make more goddamn dungeons. You really do. It just pisses me off. Look, you have the Auchindoun tile set. Just make another dungeon that's the Auchindoun Crypts. You have the Skyreach stuff. Well, I'm sure the Arakoa have more places than just Skyreach. They can make multiple dungeons per tile set. God damn, just give us more gameplay. 8 dungeons, not enough. I don't know how many times the player base has got to just drive this point home. You know, that it's not enough dungeons. It will not keep people interested at max level. And it's not like these are, MoP dungeons that are going to be completely irrelevant after 10 minutes. No, these ones are supposed to be a bit harder. They're supposed to drop gear that's comparatively better in heroic difficulty, so only having 8 is not enough. I don't know how many times I have to say this, or how much I have to, reiterate it. It's just not enough. Now, that said, the dungeons that are there are really cool, but again, there needs to be more of them. Now, the next thing that the OP said is interesting. So he said that client code for a Garrison cash shop was discovered, but then was removed, and Corey Stockton then tweeted about it. Apparently, well, lore said this never happened and such functionality is not planned, and not to spread false rumors. That does sound rumory. I don't know if this is true. I never saw it, I'll say that much, and I very much hope that there never is a cash shop for the Garrison. That would be extremely uncool, and if there were any customization things for the Garrison, then it should absolutely be via, achievements and quests. However, you know what? I could imagine in 3 expansions time, people using the same argument to defend cash shop mounts and to defend cash shop Garrison customization. Saying, oh, it's just a different barracks, it doesn't affect your gameplay. That will happen. I mean, right now people are very angry about the idea of a cash shop Garrison, yet functionally you could make the argument that it's very similar to a cash shop mount, but whatever. Let's move on. We're nearly done with this list of mostly bullshit that this guy's came up with. He also said that there is less raid content at launch than any other expansion. No, there are 17 bosses in 2 very large raids that are both actually decently non-linear that look really awesome. Of course, that's what lore also said, and lore did say the truth. That's crap. That's absolute crap. He also said no flying. I think that's a good thing. And the OP also said that the story is barely canon aside from, just that they're being weird, alternate dimension stuff, etc. No, honestly, I think the story's really fun. The questing is fantastic. And, yeah, it's just really good. I enjoy it a lot. So there you go. Now, he also mentioned the removal of many CCs. I think that this is good for the game. They're not totally removed. There's still enough for you to have a viable toolset in PvE, and in PvP, it should lead to more balanced gameplay eventually. The OP also said that apparently they have added healing and tanking NPCs to quests. I don't know what he means, but sometimes you'll be doing a quest with an NPC, and that's great because you're interacting with a story character and it's fun. So this isn't a negative. OP, shut up, you're stupid. Okay, the next thing is that the heirloom and tabard storage tab has been cut until later. Yeah, totally, they have been. That sucks. Well, okay, cut until later, aka delayed, whatever. That does suck. It would have been nice to have that earlier, but that's just not going to be the case. It's unfortunate, though. We're not going to get that functionality in 6.0. Another interesting point the OP has made is that instead of having cool quests and things like that, all we have is what he said are, quote, dynamic interactive world experiences that appear once and then disappear once you've done them. He basically just means the little bonus quest things. So right now we've got bonus quests. They're basically like the Renown Hearts from Guild Wars 2, and I think that they work out quite well. I totally understand the idea of it being one of these little bonus objectives instead of a quest chain. However, I think that's okay because, again, the quest flow is quite good. And then he also talked about the facial cosmetic stuff for the new models. Well, there's been a new art craft, I've already talked about it on this episode, that should be solved. He then also talked about homogenized healing. That could be true, I don't know, I don't heal, but I know that a lot of healers have been very negative about the healing model in Warlords of Draenor, so we'll just have to talk about that once, I don't know, once I try out healing or something like that. Or maybe if you are a healer, just leave your responses in the comments of this video. He also talked about guild leveling being removed. I think that's a good thing, and so does lore. Yep, then also he was talking about talents being auto-filled per spec to avoid confusion. That's bollocks, they don't. That's also what lore said. And finally, he talked about 80% of the announcements from BlizzCon being cut or truncated in some way. Lore said that they have made some cuts since BlizzCon, yes, but not nearly as many as the OP claimed. That's definitely true. And that they are trying to be as open as possible with any cuts things that they do make. Absolutely true, but again, don't make those little announcements via Twitter. Make them in a blog where you have control over the flow of information. Anyway, that's essentially what's went on with that thread. I just want to say that there are maybe some valid points in there. There's a lot of misinformation and bullshit. And just when you are, reading things on the internet, just think for yourself. Think for yourself and actually listen to what's being said to you, but then think about it. Don't just either rage at everything that someone says to you, and on the same side, don't just blindly accept everything that someone says to you. Because they're both just as bad when you get down to it. Anyway, that's the big thread covered. Just two more quick little points to talk about. They are adding a quest marker system into Talador, and that's going to be expanded into many other zones soon. But basically, this will point out any main quests that you are eligible for, but have not finished. Or, well, have not started, I suppose. So that's nice. If you're maybe missing some quests in a zone, that will tell you where they are. That's a lovely thing. And then finally, there is a Valor buff going on at the minute. It's 100%. It lasts from today until either Sunday or Monday or something like that. It's just the usual weekend deal. You got 100% extra Valor. That's pretty cool. It's going to coincide right when my Warlock hits level 90, so hurrah for that. Anyway, that is it for today's episode. Sorry about this not being as hyper-structured and all that stuff as I usually like. I'm really busy at the minute. There's a lot of things going on. I should have a lot more free time over the weekend. And I've still got to work out a new set of art assets for the sort of Warcraft daily style news show thingy. So yeah, I've got things to do. Anyway, that's it for this show. Let me know what you think about all the various things that I talked about today in the comments of this video. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff there, honestly. And I think that forum post is maybe something that Blizzard are a little bit sad about currently because A, the things that are true in that thing suck, and B, the misinformation sucks even worse. So, yeah, that's that. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.